Hello, Guardian. Episode 2, guys. We're now live recording. You have McAdley and Adoc here.
Yo, yo, what's going on, guys?
So we're here to talk about what's been going on in the progression of Season of Arrivals, the new exotic quest, or deal changes that have happened kind of midweek by surprise, which was kind of a little strange considering that it's happened before, but they were pretty quick on this one. And we will talk about some Trials of Osiris, which will be my favorite topic because I have a story for you guys. But um,
And then we'll go ahead and end on Moments of Triumph 2020.
and then some moments of triumph. This will be Adoc's first moments of triumph as well. So I'll kind of let him take the reins a little bit on that one there because this is all new for any newer Guardians out there as well. You guys can get uh, as we've said on episode 1, multiple point of views on you have a kind of like a vet player in me, and then you have Adoc who is fairly new to Destiny. So let's take it away, man. Do you want to talk about the intro to or the progression of what's been going on around the universe here in the universe of Destiny?
Yeah, absolutely. So the pyramid ships, they are infiltrating Io, Titan, Mars, and Mercury, the planets that will soon be going away come fall. I think it's interesting. I think this way of integration of story into actual seasonal content is really refreshing. After playing Season of the Worthy into now, I can see that there's a lot more people that are buying into this, and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. I can appreciate it." So it was really cool to kind of see. You're going into Io now, and you see the little the little pyramid ships flying across. It's really cool. And with that, it brings a new exotic quest. I love this exotic. I think this is dope exotic. If you haven't gotten it yet, I recommend you highly to get it. The Ruinous Effigy trace rifle.
Yeah, I've seen a tweet, I think it was from T-Rex, where he's like, "Here's how the Destiny 1 exotics went." And then he I think it was Jade Rabbit. He
It was
said,
Jade Rabbit, Head Seeker or
yeah,
something, right?
and it gives you a better head seeker on a gun, which that was the exotic perk for that scout rifle, right? Where we have the Ruinous Effigy. It's a trace rifle, it's void damage. Um Super cool gun. This is one of the newer, more creative exotic weapons that Bungie has came out with. Right behind it was the Wither Horde, which was something totally new. You blast a orb of blight around, and it does damage over time, dot damage. And this one here, it's a void based weapon, but it's like a beam. And what that does is that turns the enemy into what I call a little boom package almost, where you go and you pick this orb up, and then you can smash it, you can punch with it. I just found out Adoc let me know that you can actually block with it and you can
Yeah,
stop a lot of the incoming damage. Catalyst is really easy to get for it. If I'm not mistaken, once you do the orb creation and you pick it up the first time, it opens the catalyst for you. So, not too much work in terms of earning the catalyst, but using the weapon, I think it took us 2 hours maybe, just kind of using it casually. We
yeah,
actually upgraded that. So, what are your thoughts on it too, man? Because I know you're really liking it, and it's cool
yeah.
that you're coming into it now because you're experiencing these crazy exotics and not really experiencing, oh, this is a lackluster one. So
Right.
yeah. What do you
Um,
think on it?
I just think from this season, like I know there's three exotics for the season where we have two of the three. The next one, Traveler's Chosen. Hopefully we hear about it soon. But just from Wither Horde, who you were speaking about a little bit earlier, and now Ruinous Effigy, I just think that exotics are just like sometimes they can. It's okay for it to be a quirky gun. Like I think as long as it's fun and it has some sort of usefulness, whether in PvP or PvE, I wouldn't recommend this gun too much in PvP unless you can get those orbs and sneak around. You could maybe get a few kills with it. I think it's better as a PvE gun, but I really enjoy it. I think what's nice about Destiny and something that we've talked about extensively was how unique the weapons are and how you find that gun that you just really enjoy using. If it's a hand cannon or in this case now an exotic trace rifle, I just think it adds a level of flair to the game, and it allows you to play how you want to play. Which I think at the end of the day, you invest time into the game, like you should play how you want to play. I really enjoy this gun. I'm running it a lot more now that I got the Catalyst and I've been using it. I tried a few games of PvP, but I was really having fun on the moon, I was in Altars of Sorrow, and I was just in front of the like orb where all the hives spawn out of, and I was just holding the the shield out, and we're running into it. And what's funny is, and I have to test it a little bit more to find out. I know people have probably done extensive reviews on it, but I kind of like a little self discovery when finding out perks and how things work on guns. Is if you're in the bubble, like if enemies are in the bubble and you're draining health from them, you actually don't take on damage. I think you could take on damage if someone's shooting you outside of the bubble, but I have to test that a little bit more.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say I think we need to jump into some Crucible, like
yeah,
a 1v1 situation, and I wouldn't mind here in like a future video outside of our podcast video, almost show all the aspects of all of the newer weapons. But
that's what really all I have to say on the trace rifle. Not too difficult of an exotic quest, but a fun gun. I recommend you get it. Definitely have it and keep it in the good old inventory.
yeah, the quest steps were actually not too difficult either, although we had leaked information about the quest steps prior to us actually receiving the weapon. If you
Right.
guys are familiar with a lot of these leak websites that pull off of API from Bungie, they'll add these weapons in. And a lot of the time, if it's a quest step, it will have a quest icon and kind of break them down. So, for all of you guys that have not gotten the weapon yet, I'll cover just a little bit of the quest. I won't kind of spoil any details, not really any spoilers in here, but you start off by you have to complete the interference mission through the recaster that you get weekly. So you do have to do this quest either way if you're chasing pinnacles as well as story lore. So not too difficult to start that quest up. You do have to generally you'll gather you have to do the contact public events, build that up. Usually takes two of those public events. And then after that, there's another part of the mission. A lot of the time it's reckoning or PvP or whatever it is. You have to acquire these consumables or these collectibles. And then at that point, that further progresses that step. And then you can do the interference mission. So after that mission is done, you end that means to end quest. It does um, give you the next quest step will be collecting. If you guys are familiar, if anyone that played Destiny 1, you remember the calcified fragments on the Dreadnought to get Touch of Malice. This is very relative to that quest. You do have to collect 25 calcified light fragments on Io, Titan, Mars, and Mercury. How that generally works is when you pull your ghost out, it'll give you a waypoint, and you have to go to that waypoint. Believe you have to be within 200 meters, or else it does not pop up on your HUD. I
Yeah,
think
we
we
had to go
learned
back
that
to IO at the last.
IO,
We're like missing
we're,
one.
we're like, dude, we have 24 out of 25. Do we have to go through all of these planets again? But I took a guess on IO because I think Lost Oasis was where we went. That's kind of a large area, more than 200 meters from side to side. So that is where we found our last calcified light fragment. So we were able to progress the step next. I believe part of that quest step though is you have to defeat 15 Savathun marionettes. Generally, they'll spawn after the contact public event. When the boss comes out, you usually get one, I think. But we found a little trick, I want to call it, around IO that three of the bosses from the previous contact weeks were spawning with these yellow bar enemies. Kill those enemies off, they spawn the marionettes. I think we were getting maybe two or three marionettes every 20, 30 minutes or so. I didn't really time it. I was just trying to do the mission. I got some footage of it. You'll probably see it on screen if you're watching on YouTube right now, but that kind of gives you the gist of where we found a lot of these enemies at. And then the final quest step after that was a three-parter. You had to complete Gambit or Reckoning, tier 2, tier 3 Reckoning. I think it was tier 3
We
gives
did
the
tier
most
three.
progress. Yeah,
Yeah.
it granted the most progress. Void kills, use any void weapon. I use the Gnawing Hunger, or you use the Recluse for the void kills. Precision multi kills, you should be going hand cannon for this, in my opinion. If you have decentish aim, precision hand cannon kills on a lot of the acolytes, as well as a lot of the thrall inside the reckoning, granted me the most progress. So a lot of people were using ARs. I mean, it works, but it's not that one shot, one kill type thing sometime where you can plant one headshot and it's done. So that's the quest. After that, I believe you go back to Zavala. Um, or could have been the recaster. I
I
think you
think the
claim it as
recaster gives it
the
to you.
recaster. Yeah, it
Yeah.
gives you an exotic engram, I believe, and that turns into the weapon, the effigy. So, uh, awesome weapon so far. As we said in the very beginning of this, Destiny 1 weapons, there were a couple that were very lackluster, but these weapons seem to be very creative. So this makes me excited to see what the future holds when the new expansion comes out, the new exotic weapons. Then expectations are set high, Bungie. Don't forget that. So
Haha. Oh, Bungie. All the Bungie I was gonna say
all
mistakes. It's not always Bungie mistakes.
all the
They do
Bungie
good things too.
Bungies.
And granted, like I really enjoyed the season so far, so I can't say all mistakes. But one thing that I really wasn't too excited about, and I know a lot of people were just really ragging on Bungie for was the change of the Nightfall. Yeah, I just I remember I was talking to McCadley the day afterwards, and I was like, you know what? I was watching some videos just on the new content for the week and seeing what the Nightfall was, and there was the bug in Festering Core where if you played on Master, which is I believe it's a 1080 light level,
Yep.
the combatants would actually be at a 750 light level, so you would still have to have either your overload rounds or your unstoppable and barrier. So you'd have to still have that loadout, but you would have a greater chance of getting ascendant shards and prisms. So it was like, great, let's go ahead and run this tomorrow. And a buddy of ours, Damani, who we were running through, and we loaded up the Nightfall because we're like, great, we have everything, we're ready to go. Festering Core, here we come. Nope, Pyramidion, and I were like, "Did they change it?" And we played, I think it was at, 1:20, PM Eastern Time, so it was, like, 20 minutes after the, daily reset happened, and I think, Bungie went ahead and pulled a fast one. They went ahead and
Surprise.
changed it, and, the Bungie help Twitter was like, "Yep, we've gone ahead and changed the Nightfall to Pyramidion," and, yeah,
Yeah, that leads into a mini discussion too, man. Like, what are we? I know Adoc here kind of touched base prior to this in the prep stages, but um, what do we pick and choose at this point, right? What are the activities or what are the mistakes? Not really even a mistake, but let's just say a bug, right? Like, what are we focused on in terms of our attention in terms of Bungie's attention, I mean, trying to fix first, right? What's most important to them?
right,
Seems like a lot of these things where you have fun and makes you want to play the Master Nightfall, right? Zero Hour as well as Whisper had the exact same problem where you would go in and you can one shot a lot of the enemies, and those people that have not completed these missions yet, you can bring them through it and be like, hey, I know you're 2 years behind, but here's your Outbreak Prime perfected. So it's I feel like they pick and choose between that as well as the forges where they almost allowed people to farm the forges. I would have even disabled the forges at that point. Just say, hey, until we find a fix for this, just because there are a lot of people out there now that have like 10,000 altered elements. I know we have a lot now for whatever reason. I think that's through Age of Triumph,
yeah,
but we'll kind of get to that here at the end. But it's just crazy that I feel like they're picking and choosing, just like Menagerie. It was a discussion last week where you run Menagerie and you're like, man, the rate of these weapons dropping makes me. I'm excited, right? I can pick and
right.
choose, and I can get tons of drops. That's what this game is about. This is a looter shooter. So when you get loot, that's exciting. When you don't get loot, you're defeating what you're playing, in my opinion. So
And I think what's interesting too, and you bring up the point about the forges. It's like the forges, there was no input that you had to have. Like you load it in, and it would just continually push you through it, and it would give you the umbrals. At
yeah,
least with doing the nightfall, even if the light levels messed up and there was a bug not reflecting truly what the light level needs to be, you still have to play it. You still have to invest time and grind, and that's the biggest thing is there's people that really enjoy the grind for the sake of the grind. Like, hey, I need to get this thing or I need to run, PvP for this quest line. I gotta grind. I gotta do it. So I don't think people are shying away from wanting to grind. It's just like whenever there's anything that's benefiting the player base, which I think is very harmless. I don't believe that Ascendant shards drop nearly enough. I'm more likely to get multiple exotics over the course of a day of me playing than one Ascendant shard. So, you know, a lot of people jumping onto this of like, yeah, let's go ahead and get some Ascendant shards. We didn't do anything wrong here. We're just playing the game.
sure.
I find it interesting that Bungie will pick and choose what's appropriate, but I always feel like it hurts the player in the end. Because it's not like we're doing anything malicious in the background as to, other game modes in Destiny 2. Um, yeah, just let the players have fun. Let them grind, put in the time. Yes, they might get some of these currencies and things to masterwork their armor, but let them. They're not doing anything wrong. That's just my opinion. But
Yeah, it's they do pick and choose a lot, and I feel like to your point here, right? If it's on a PvP level where it's affecting other players, or if it's going to affect like a world's first raid run, um, which a lot of people back in the day were getting DDoSed on console, right? That's something that you need to invest time into to fix and correct. That is game changing and game breaking. If you're just getting extra materials because you are like, hey, I may not have a constant group that wants to run the Master Nightfall, or you don't want to LFG because you're not good with strangers or whatever the case is, right? This was your way of running the Nightfall with maybe a group of people for 1 week and saying, hey, I can stack up on 5 to 10 Ascendant shards. A fix for this may even be do a 5% chance when you break apart an exotic armor or weapon, have a chance of
Right.
5%, which is tiny. Give that 5% chance of dropping Ascendant shards. Because again, it's really only used for masterworking that exotic armor piece. But at that point in time, if you don't have them and it's a chance of getting it, like I get challenging content. I'm one and I'm a firm believer of challenging content, but there has to be a priority in what's fixed first and what's not. And what a perfect segue to get into Trials of Osiris.
See, I like how we did that. That was
Yeah,
nice.
that was pretty smooth. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about it just because me personally, I've been a Trials player since Destiny 1. I was super excited of it coming out in Destiny 2. There is a meme going around about one of the Vidocs claiming that this mode will not be sent out half baked. And it's not to poke fun at Bungie. It's just one of those comical things like it was almost the kiss of death. It's almost saying, hey, we're going to push out a mode which we think you want. And a lot of people wanted it. This was a mode that gained a lot of hype on Twitch, even in terms of viewership. But the game mode, if you're new to Destiny in general, or if you've never played it because of the bad banter around it, it is a 3v3 elimination based game mode. Once you die, you need a res or wait until the round's over. So the best of five first wins, and it is super sweaty. There was only like 7,000 players that were actively playing it, and that's over the hundreds of thousands to millions of people that play this game on a daily basis. 7,000 was the lowest that I've seen. And this weekend, I took you into it a little bit. We played with, was it you that played with Destin or was it Damani
It might have been Damani. I played with
this weekend?
Damani, so it might have been.
Okay, yeah, it was you. It was myself, you, and Damani playing this week. And a little story behind that is all of us are friends in real life. So when we play, I'm super competitive, and I know a lot of people at times probably don't want to play with me because I'm so competitive. But it was super sweaty, and if you don't stick together, you don't play as a team, you don't body shot on this, even past the second to third win on the card. It's just an absolute sweat fest, super unenjoyable, mixed with cheaters. I mean, there is not in my opinion, the amount of time I played through it, I will say I haven't seen a lot, but there are noticeable amounts of hackers in the game, some that can hide it very well. There's not a lot of flying through the air with heavy ammo anymore. You won't notice a lot of those cheating. What you will notice is a lot of aimbotting, a lot of wall hacking. Wall hacking is super hard to detect unless you have it on a mechanical level in terms of, let's just say, an anti-cheat system that detects a specific file being ran on a player's computer. That's going to be really the only time you're going to detect it. Aimbot is usually something that you can detect even through stats sometimes. So, but you cannot prove it through stats. So the problem with that is going to be, and I had this discussion with ADOC last night. I'll let him kind of talk once I make the point about anti-cheat, and then we'll close up Trials. But anti-cheat on Destiny 2 right now, here's my opinion of why it's so bad. So Destiny 1 started as a console game, right? I don't know if there was plans in the future to port it over to PC, but in a console game, you generally do not need to build an anti-cheat system into the coding of the game. So I don't know this factually. It's just my opinion in terms of why I believe cheating right now is so bad in Trials. When Destiny 2 came out and ported over to PC, we had Trials of the Nine. I think around that time it was still out. I did play with Lab back when Lab was a thing. I played with them a couple weekends in Trials of the Nine. And with that being said, I mean, there was no cheating back then. It didn't seem prevalent, at least at that point. Trials of Osiris came back around. Hacks have been out for quite some time. It was just littered all throughout the comp playlist, or even you playing through comp modes trying to get guns like Luna's Howl and all that. Cheating was starting to become more prevalent. So On a console game, you don't have to build this back end system to stop people cheating because there's really no way to cheat on console. I'm sure that there could be exploits out there and things like that, but you're not going to get an aimbot on a console. So, in my opinion, that's what's dampering a lot of it, which leads into carries, which leads into account recovs. I'm super against account recovery, and here's why: anti cheating. There's no anti cheating to stop the cheaters. The cheaters are downloading cheats to make money, to carry people through a quick card in about 30 minutes. I did do a little research online about what the recovs would cost. It's around averaged 35 to up to $50 for a carry. That's more than my job pays me if you're doing an hour for around 35 to like $50 an hour, right? That's more than my daily job. What's stopping me as a player? No, I would never cheat, but as a person that could easily cheat in a game, what's stopping me from downloading a hack, quitting my job, and just doing account recovs? So when if you as Bungie need to prevent account recovs, have it built in your terms of service, have them say, hey, if you're caught doing any account sharing, you can get a temporary suspension while we investigate this stuff. That leads into cheating, right? Those go hand in hand, man, because there's money involved. So could you
That makes
kind of
sense.
agree with that, right?
Yeah, no, that
And
it definitely makes sense. It's
so
a catalyst for cheating.
yeah, and that's the problem. So and you have a little experience with trials right now. You got to play with me for this last weekend. I know we dibble dabbled back when Cauldron was around a couple weekends ago. Myself, Damani, and Destin. For all of you guys that are listening that are big in the Destiny community, he is part of Fire Team Chat. He's a good friend of mine. I met him at TwitchCon. Super down to earth, chill guy. Enjoy playing trials with him. It's always a good time. We always giggle a little bit, but we played, and after like 2 or 3 wins in the card, man, we were like, do you want to just reset and have fun or what? Because we're really only grinding for gear and guns at this point. So what was your experience in trial, Adoc? If you were able to tell me uh on an outside looking in, would you recommend trials, and how was your experience?
As a new player, it, it was difficult at first. I remember when I got in at season 10 and just playing normal Crucible, and we played 3v3 eliminations just as kind of trials prep during season 10. It was difficult, and I think a lot of it had to do with me playing catch up on just getting the right guns to use. Getting the sweat load out of having your spare rations, have your beloved, just all the guns that you need.
Mhm.
After I got that, and now coming back into Season of Arrivals and playing a couple cards of Trials, it's just disheartening. And I think from your point that you've made of getting rid of the account recoveries, will help with this mitigation and getting rid of cheaters. And a point that I made to you a few days ago was like, there are definitely people that utilize this because they know just from their ability that they can't play 7 cards and potentially go flawless. Like, maybe it's even hard for people to win a game, much less 3 to get your 3-win reward. I think it's a nice thing that it's offered by people, but I say that and I'm laughing a little bit because it's like it shouldn't be a thing. Like, as a company, Bungie should look at this and say, if people are making money off of this, and this isn't the first game that does it. I know, playing, certain games like World of Warcraft, there's different ways that you can pay for services to have someone level your character for you because you work a 9 to 5, and you just want to be able to play all the end game stuff and not miss out. So I understand that, that's a business and it's a revenue stream for people, but I just think that if people are doing this because they can't win, or they just don't want to entertain the mode because they know they're not good at PvP, like some people are just strictly PvE players. But man, that trial set looks really nice, and I'd really like to have it, but I'm really not good at PvP, much less Trials of
Sure.
Osiris. I might look at that as an option. I just think that Bungie needs to look at certain ways that they have integrated and made the mode coming from D1, like all of the good things about it, and implement some of those things into D2, whether it's certain things like, and I know we talked about it a little bit. Again, I don't know because I've never played D1 about silver and gold bounties and what that meant. Um, in Trials for Destiny 2, there are weekly bounties, and it's the win reward, but you only get it once. It's not repeatable. So, me, for example, when we played Trials, I played on my Warlock. I got the 3 win, and I got the gauntlets, but it was a crappy roll on the gauntlets. Now I have to either get trials tokens by completing bounties or stick with that bad roll. And I just think there needs to be more options for average players. We need to find a way to entice average players, and I don't know what that looks like. I'm not being a subject matter expert on it. I think it's important to kind of just address and lay everything out. And then at that point, we need to look at what's working and what doesn't work. But the current system that it is and how it is, I just think there's just a lot missing.
There can definitely be a big improvement on it as well. And I know the tokens in general are good for saying, hey, I just unlocked this weapon through my third win. Now let me go back there and check to see if I can get a god roll on, let's just say, the summoner, if that's the first weapon, if that's the 3 win weapon. So to kind of touch on what you asked about the bounty system, as far as my memory jogs me, now again, I was a what I would consider a hardcore PvP player in D1. Not so much now. I just enjoy it with friends, but right now I would say more about those bounties were just a one-time thing as well. So you can only do those bounties, those 3 bounties, gold, silver, bronze, one time a week. It wasn't a repeatable bounty. So that's one of those things. Again, I feel like the loot was less plentiful in the first year, but it was more rewarding to play to get flawless. So
Right.
if you got flawless pretty much back in D1, there was really no reason to run it again. So right now, the way that they have the system, which keeps bringing these people back, goes all towards account recovs to carries, which I mean carries are okay, right? I get a little frustrated when I don't play PvP as much as, let's just say, the top tier PvP players do. But with that being said, I'm matching up with a lot of these guys when they have 5 and 6 wins when I'm just starting a card because of the lack of player pool.
Yeah.
So with all of
And
that
that's one of the
being,
problems.
and it is, but why is there a small player pool? Because there's problems with trials right now.
Right.
It's not an enjoyable mode. Now, is the solution taking the game mode away through the lore, which I've thought about in terms of saying, hey, what's going to happen to Saint 14, and is he going to be able to host trials? Put some lore into that to maybe take the game mode away and fix it, rather than just removing it and fixing it because it's broken type thing, and then bring a bunch of people back for another one of those conventions where you bring players out and say, hey, how can we fix this? We're okay with that. I know we had a discussion a couple days ago that gaming is not how it used to be back in the day because you have player feedback now that shapes and molds these games. I'm kind of against that in my opinion because I mean, you can have a wide majority of people that are saying one thing of what they like, but you're not speaking for the quiet side of the audience. The loud players are always going to have their feedback heard the most. So when you get something along the lines of that, I mean, is that damaging to the game mode because you're attending to the hardcore PvP audience that does this for money, right? These account recovs again.
Yeah.
So there all of this is kind of a snowball effect, in my opinion, from hacking as well as account recovs. I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, well, this guy's just mad that it's a hustle. I mean, call it a hustle if you want, but you're screwing my game up for me. I don't care if I'm playing the same 3 players, right? That's going to be it. But when you're doing it on different accounts and you're doing it for money, you're not under your name. How would you know that you're not cheating or you don't have a hacker now in your group to get this done, right? That's going to carry you to a flawless win in 25 minutes. Now you're making double the money in an hour. So you could tell how passionate I am about the removal of account recovs, which would stop a lot of the hacking. Just because now there's no monetary value. There's you don't need to hack anymore for the reason of making money. It's not a financial motive behind it. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's just my outlook on trials right now. I know we're gonna get a lot of people that do disagree with this, and I'm okay with that. But I speak for the casual to average player base to, I mean, even decent player base because I would look at myself as a decent player. But um, I just feel like it's not fun for me to bring my friends, my personal friends into it because it can cause problems amongst us, right? There was a time that we all left Discord for what 20, 30 minutes because we started arguing about it because it is so sweaty and it's so toxic. It's building a toxic environment. It's not fun in my opinion.
You just feel
Uh,
helpless. I think it's just a matter of feeling helpless because you don't know, and there's just people that are exploiting the mode for what it is, and it's just in shambles right now. It needs fixing, but
yeah,
I think we've battered. I think we've battered trials enough. But
horse
I
is
just
dead already.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely dead. The only thing I just want to add, not about trials, but it's just like the TWAP released, and I guess a lot of people were up in arms that there was no mention of anything trials related or anything about anti cheat, and it just kind of makes us feel as a community like, are we being heard? Like, is this information like viewable from Bungie? Like, are they seeing this? Do they think this is a problem? It's just to us, our perception is like, if you're not going to mention it, in 2 weeks, a TWAB, 2 weeks back to back, it just makes you feel a little funny. But
It's like just saying, "Hey, we've made progress on anti-cheat. We're close. We're close to implementing something." Even just words like that are very
right,
standard and very basic. But Bungie 100% knows that there's a cheating problem. I mean, I'm sure they look at their numbers. I'm sure they see feedback. They're on Reddit. They're in Discord. I mean, they're all over the place. They hear what people are saying, but for us to hear that they know that we know that they're listening is just going to help us out as a community. That's all.
we just don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, keep us
Anyways,
informed.
moving on. We're talking about Moments of Triumph 2020. What is Moments of Triumph? I just saw it. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what this is, but yeah, great, cool.
Yeah, it kind of gave us something to play, and although a lot of the content that they're reprising again, which I'll let Anthony talk a little bit about, or I'll let Adoc talk a little bit about it, in terms of what he thinks of it. I've been through multiple Moments of Triumph. Generally, what they do is they reprise a couple things. They give you loot to earn. They give you challenges to accomplish. Right now, I think they're offering a raid ring and some shirts. The raid ring is new. That is for completing all of the raids, all 5 raids, the 2 raid layers: Original Leviathan, Crown of Sorrow, and Scourge of the Past. If you complete those, you can buy the raid ring through the store. You unlock your code. Pretty cool stuff there. I like the incentive with that. A lot of their shirts, a lot of their jackets look really, really cool. I like the designs of them and such. It gives you incentive, right? It's more of a
Yeah,
physical incentive now. So, what's your thought on your first Moments of Triumph, man? I know we did the raids together. So, what do you
yeah.
think about it as
I,
a
I
whole?
I think that was like the biggest thing. For me being a new light player in this game, being out, we're going into year 4. My biggest thing was, I've watched these raids, I've watched these raid layers, but I've never got to experience them on my own. We played through Leviathan a few months back when I started playing Destiny 2. I'll never remember, never forget the first weapon I got was Midnight Coup. Like that was the first thing I pulled out of my chest. So, and I have really good memories when it comes to Leviathan, but it was just so refreshing to run all 3 just to do everything on Leviathan, which I thought I'd never do. I recommend if you are a new light player, if you find a team, whether it is LFG or you have a group of players, if the incentive isn't the raid ring, but just an opportunity for you to receive, the shaders and the callus emote, just different things to incentivize you. I recommend doing it because we're not going to get a chance to do it again, at least for the short-term future because all of it's going away. I thought that was cool. Yeah, that's what I think so far about moments. There are some things I want to talk about, but one that's like really getting to me, and I wanted to mention it, and I don't want to beat a dead horse when it comes to sunsetting because I know we talked about it last week. It's something I'm like super passionate about because I advocate for the players and just me being a new player, and I know I haven't invested as much time as maybe some people, but I think the point that I'm making is just like, it's a loot-based game. Players are attached to the loot that they earn. We must remember that. Like that can't be forgotten. That has to be like a core tenement of Destiny and what it is. My problem that I'm having is that um this idea of sunsetting, we want it to be a normalized thing. We want the community, even if they don't like it and agree to it, at least they like understand it and can accept it. The thing that I want to talk about and what I really enjoyed about it, before I bash it, I want to talk about it, is I really liked the implementation of you having the ability to regrind these raids, especially for everyone that wants anarchy that hadn't gotten it, right? Like that's the thing. Same thing with what's the other exotic?
It's
Teraba,
not
right?
yeah, yes, and
Teraba.
Crown of Sorrow raid.
Yes. So that's really cool. I think it's great to allow players the ability to redo it and get the opportunity for it to drop. Great. Love that. Came from Prophecy, which kind of like set the bar. So now that Destiny is implementing that, like that is how things should be moving forward. I would hope. Fingers crossed. My problem is, and here's where I want to talk about. My problem is if we want to normalize the idea of sunsetting, we need to change the method of loot pursuit. And when I mean we, I mean Bungie. The method for loot pursuit needs to change. So, giving you an example, if you picture grinding a mindbender's shotgun, having to run that strike on Tangled Shore multiple times to get the roll that you want. Now that that gun is going to be sunset, you think about, damn, I wasted a lot of time into getting it. Granted, I used it and I played for it, but now all that time that I invested, it's now gone. I think that it needs to be changed in the way that Destiny has the loot pursuit. I like the ability to regrind, and this will allow for players to be accountable for their own personal loot. It's up to you to grind these dungeons, grind these raids, grind these strikes to get the loot that you want. I think that's great. Um, yeah, I just
Why this will always be a very sensitive subject is because we both see different angles of it. I'm not going to attack the idea that it's an opinion, right? Everyone has an opinion on what they want and why they invest their time into a game like Destiny, any looter shooter to be exact. So when you have something like an idea of sunsetting coming out, where you're saying, "Hey, we're taking away all of your primary uh, special as well as heavy legendary weapons," which you're keeping all of the exotics, by the way, which if you check your items tab and you go into each of the weapons, it'll give you a value of what you can upgrade it up to. So that gives you an idea. I think right now all of the newer weapons are 1360, around the range of that, which means we're going to get a full year of those weapons that are just coming out that have the arrivals tag on it. I just look at it in a way of saying, hey, you're giving me an opportunity now of going against new weapons and a new meta and PvP. You can still go into regular Crucible and use your mind benders, because to me, that's the only place that you're going to find mind benders is going to be in PvP. Usually, a person's not using that in PvE unless you're doing a bounty or a specific objective and such. So it's not a highly used weapon in PvE. So people are still going to run around in Crucible using their favorite weapons. And I feel like my point of view is kind of seeing that you're not really taking the weapon away from somebody. You're just limiting on where they can use it. And I do agree in terms of saying, hey, you should be able to use what you want to use and play your way. And your time investment is worth it to a lot of people, if not everyone. But me personally, it's not about time investment for me. I want an ever evolving world. I want to have lore where saying, hey, like in the original Destiny 1, when the story ended, right? And 2 was starting, we lost our vault. We lost all of our weapons. We're starting over fresh. That was awesome. I'm like, man, I'm almost playing a brand new game with the background of a game that I have a very, very strong passion for. We get to experience new things. We get to experience new weapons. Why these weapons are coming about. It could be a Nightfall weapon now, or it could be a brand new exotic. Although
yeah.
now they've learned to bring exotics over because these are one of a kind weapons that are earned through pretty much luck, right? So, a lot of that in terms of sunsetting, in my opinion, is one of those things that I want a new way to play, and I'm very strong against having new content now that we're not getting a Destiny 3 anytime soon with the expansions going all the way out to 2022. I want to make sure that we're getting a fresh eye on the game, right? I'm sure 2 years down the road, you may get tired of using Recluse, you may get
Right.
tired of using Mountaintop if there was no sunsetting, right? So you being and you having that cool idea of saying, hey, keep specific weapons or keep all weapons, but just give the person the ability of saying, hey, make a better weapon than that, right? There's going to be a point in time, in my opinion, that you may not be able to have a better weapon. You may not be able
Right.
to manufacture that much better of a weapon where
Yeah.
it's more powerful each time, right? Because how powerful is too powerful at this
Yeah,
point,
and
right?
that's where we talk about power creep. So I'm aware of it, but I guess the point that I was trying to make, and it's up to Bungie and their ability to design and create a weapon. Maybe I wouldn't say that's like more powerful, but that's that's more useful for maybe the new year 4 of Destiny. Maybe the weapons that they're creating and what they're designing, like they they hold more value to complete your quests or whatever you have to do in year 4 and
Sure.
Beyond Light. So I think it kind of allows us to more organically like find the weapons that we like and use those instead. I just think that if you create something that's interesting enough, and this brings me back to talking about Witherhoard and Ruinous Effigy, like creating these like crazy, like wacky exotics, like they're fun. They're really fun to use, and I really enjoy them. So it's like it's having that same design and that same idea of like let's create some cool guns
Mhm.
and allow the players to be like, "Yeah, I wanna use this. This is way cooler." And I don't think that people are replacing their mountaintop with Witherhoard, but, some people might use it over it a few times, like, actually, I think this would actually be better in this situation." So
Mhm.
that's kinda all I have to say about that.
Just to kind of end it off on this in terms of sunsetting, it's I'm sure you can agree that mountaintop and all of those super powerful guns, maybe hey, you can keep them, but I'm tired of getting killed. Where I even had to pull mountaintop out during Iron Banner because I was tired of getting slayed with it, as well as
Yeah.
Trials. I've never used that in any PvP mode ever, but because people were using it in Trials this week, I had to force myself to pull out mountaintop. So I'm going to be happy to see that leave and go bye bye. You can only upgrade it to 1060, which thank heavens. So that gun is going to be gone. Although PVE, I'm going to miss it a little bit because it's a crutch. You use that weapon to just do crazy damage, and there's a point in time that it needs to go. So
Yep. I hear you. Alrighty.
so that's pretty much it for episode 2. Anthony, do you have anything to add here at the end, my friend?
No, I appreciate, everyone that's sticking around and that have, listened to the first episode or have watch it on YouTube. If you follow us on Twitter, which is going to be at Hello Guardian, we will make sure that it is linked in the description of the YouTube video. You guys can connect with us there. Make sure that you follow us, engage with us. We want to build a community of individuals that enjoy this game and that have great ideas for it and just want to talk about Destiny. Like, who doesn't want to talk about Destiny?
Sure.
So definitely take the time and do that. And appreciate the support.
We created a Discord as well that we're going to get up and running, and we're going to start advertising it on Twitter. That with the Moments of Triumph being around, we're going to try to maybe help people run these raids that have never ran the raids before, to kind of build that community that all of us are talking about here. So also feel free to check out the YouTube page as well. You can do a search of Hello Guardian and also be on Twitter. We're looking to do more videos other than just podcast stuff. I may do some exotic reviews coming up. I just took some footage of the Suros regime today, so check out that video here, possibly this weekend here, if I can get some better footage for it. And then we'll go from there, guys. So please be on the lookout for all things Hello Guardian, Twitter, YouTube, podcast on Spotify, coming soon to Apple. And we will see you on the next episode.
See you guys.
Take care.